Thank you for joining us for the Orange County Arts Council's virtual studio visit. This program is made possible by donations from people like you. 50% of donations go directly to the artists featured, and 50% to Orange County Arts Council programs. Please consider donating today. You can donate by going to ocartscouncil.org. The Arts Council's virtual studio visits are presented in partnership with the Newburgh Free Library and are made possible in part by NYSCA, the New York State Council on the Arts.
Hey, hi everyone. My name is Cody and I am here with David Lionheart for this very special virtual studio tour. I do ask that you guys please keep yourself muted throughout the discussion, but go ahead and utilize the chat function on the side of your screen to ask questions, and we'll do our best to weave them into discussion. If I don't get to them, we will have 10 to 15 minutes towards the end at 5:45, 5:50 to go ahead and answer those questions with David. So David Lionheart is a great artist who is based in Newburgh and works in mixed media and painting. He's very active both in the art world and as well as the larger community through several projects and initiatives that I'm going to go ahead and let David tell you all about. So, David.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the gallery virtually. And this video does a great job of walking through the space at Grit. And I want to thank the Orange County Arts Council and Gretchen and Cody and Sarah for putting all of this together. And as you're watching me walk through this gallery, it kind of gives you an idea of the layout of our space that we're working with. This is a large piece called Steel Before Brush, and it's also a good example of a lot of the building materials I use in my works. Those are stainless steel cables and copper lugs. I'm a carpenter by trade, so a lot of my treasure comes from things I've seen in historical renovations and spaces where I've worked. And a lot of these pieces contain a lot of that copper and iron and fabrics and different textiles that I work with. And this has been a great opportunity to be able to showcase the works here. We have about 45 works on display at Grit right now. And the works that you're looking at currently are some of my industrial pieces. So I work in a caustic space with an industrial substrate, creating a chemical reaction on the surface of the artwork that I've learned how to control where it happens, how long it happens, and then what I desire to remain once that reaction is completed. A lot of these works that are in the industrial series are framed in an aluminum, very lightweight frame, wired and ready for hanging. And in this conference room, it showcases 4 of the pieces from this collection. 2 from the Compass series, South and East, are in this room, as well as the bright rainbow colored piece called Riflessione. And that's a larger format piece. I like to work on a larger canvas. This is this is South, and it's got a mix of acrylics, oils, and then thick copper wire that's been sculpted and fastened to the canvas. A lot of grit and texture exists on the canvas, and you can see in the little nooks and crannies of the spaces where the reaction occurs, I go back in and add in my own grit and texture into that space while I'm creating the colors, tones, and feels for the final surface of the painting. This work is showing really well here right now. It's the first time I've shown all the works collectively, all in one space. And it's been a pleasure to have them be seen all in one place here as well. I'm standing in front of a piece called Free there, and this piece is called East, that we're kind of saying hello to and walking by, and that's a mix of wire and textile. I look very happy. Orange County did a great job of filming this, and it was fun kind of walking through and gave me a different perspective on the gallery space as well and how people view it. This is an earlier mixed media piece of mine called Buffalo Calf Robe, inspired by a Native American woman, a warrior, who was very integral in her tribe's survival. And she is made up of a lot of custom texture panels, raw burlaps that have been molded and turned into different different creatures. And up in the upper left-hand corner, the image of the skeleton is created with a gold French powder. as well as some adhesives that I use to bring that surface to light. So I love space, color block, texture, and kind of bringing all of these things together in an elegant fashion versus a piece looking overwhelmed by the mixed media. This is our small works room. So I create these smaller pieces. They're about 20 by 20 under the same principle, and they're framed in metal. And I like the use of some of the metal paints, actual metallic paints in them. And they pop like jewelry. They're really beautiful. And since we changed the lighting in that room, it's really showcased the potential for some of these small works to make a big impact on the viewer. And they fit into spaces where a lot of my larger works normally would not. So it kind of offers a shopping option for some of my collectors who want to fill up a smaller space. This brick wall has been a lot of fun to work with. I just put a new piece here, one of my flower pieces on it. But this was a graffiti piece I thought fit really well over top of it. It's called Afraid of Change, and it's a three-piece collection that has been separated, and I sell a lot of my tiles individually and some of my large sets. If a collector likes a certain piece in that set, then we find a way to make sure that they can take that home without taking away the integrity of the set itself. This is an unframed sculpture with iron and a textile that I work with that actually disappears when it becomes wet. And I've learned how to trap it in time and keep it on the canvas. I have two collectors in the room with me right now who just purchased one of my first pieces where I was working on that technique and actually found it to become successful in applying it the way I would like to apply it. So welcome, guys, and there's drinks in there if you want. As I'm walking through here, this is the lobby of Grit. This is a piece called Little Shark, and it's one of my first pieces in the industrial series where I was kind of learning this process and understanding it, as well as Blood Money, which is right next to it. It's an image of a bull with a copper ring. The two pieces here that are following weren't built as a set, but they evolved to sit well with one another, and they are in a German silver frame, which makes them match in style, and then the varied color tone really kind of stands out with the two of them. This is actually my view of the gallery right now, minus in my current situation. I have a bunch of really great people in the room sitting with us, and this is the front nook. I'm standing where I'm actually sitting right now. I'm looking at a piece called Sopraffatto, which is Italian for overwhelmed. And it was a piece I created during the pandemic. I felt receptive to our community's emotions and what they were going through, and with how media was kind of being very heavy and overbearing on us, I felt a sense of being overwhelmed by it all. And I tried to portray that here with the image of a face of sorts, and this is the piece I'm speaking on here. And there's a lot of layers of depth to this piece as you look into the cavern of the face. I used a very manipulated old shipyard rope that was cut down and whittled down and untwined so many times until it made a very fine fiber that I filled inside of that cavity of this person who's been overwhelmed. The use of the textile over this really creates a dramatic feel as it stretches apart and almost wants to disappear. The pieces that are remaining carry a lot of emotion and a lot of visual impact when you get up close to them. And a lot of these paintings, or sculptures rather, are hard to appreciate unless you're standing in front of them fully. They're very hard to photograph. So usually it's a really honor to get people into the gallery to have them come and view the artwork up close and personal, and be able to see some of the detail that's involved in it. So this was a really cool piece, and I can only create these style paintings in the summertime outdoors because of the caustic reaction and the space that I need to accomplish the process. There's many steps in the process to see it from an idea all the way through to a finished product. And having an outdoor studio allows me to help to do that, which is really great. So I look forward to, I just opened my outdoor studio, and I'm going to come out with the 2021-2022 collection of artwork in the same style, having had a winter of being in my basement painting to think about what I wanted to do on some of these new canvases and how I wanted to express myself and kind of what's going on. I'm walking over to a couple pieces here on the wall, and I'm just going to point out to our hometown crowd here. This is a piece called Grand Finale. And this is also part of that same series where I was just reacting to how people were dealing with the parameters of COVID and what was happening and being isolated and separated, and how digital influences really took a big step in front of us. And we were relying on a lot of media to communicate versus talking to people, because people were separated to some degree. So it's incredible to be sitting here in a room full of people and to be able to share this experience again. So this again has some of those ship ropes toned, colored, and fixed onto the canvas with the mix of copper and iron. I hand paint all of the iron once it's already fixed onto the canvas after the reactions occurred, to create the utmost detail in all of the crosshairs and intersections of the iron bars that I've sculpted and manipulated and tooled into the canvas. And it creates this really dramatic feel of something happening, and of course up to the interpretation of the viewer. This is a set called the Hawaiian Islands that's behind me, and this was the first time I ever added tone to the canvas while the reaction was occurring. So this chemical reaction started absorbing a lot of this color and pulling it into the artwork and into the canvas. And when I was done, I felt like I was standing in a volcano. And I thought, let's just pull these out as the Hawaiian Islands, and nothing else was done to them after the initial build and reaction had taken place. So the front room has been a spectacular place for someone like me who likes to work with large pieces. And this wall that we're panning onto is approximately 24 feet long. And the first time I showed artwork here, I had a piece that was 16 feet long and 4 feet tall as one total installation. And it showed me the true potential of this space for large, modern, and abstract art in the gallery here. And it's a real pleasure to work on this and kind of decorate and walk through and see what art can speak to you in different places in the gallery. These pieces exhibited in Chelsea recently. The one that we're focusing on is called Clear Path. That's the dark gray one. And this was just exhibiting at the Liechtenstein Center for Art in the Berkshires. And this piece sold last week. It's called Iron Lace. It used to be hanging there where Brittle Stars is now. And this piece was really special in the collection because it was a step during the process in a very raw form. As you can see how enamored I am by this artwork. It was a great place to stop during my creative process as the iron began to rust and the fabric was woven delicately around all of those rods. I left it in its raw form because I appreciated the matte white against the rust and the rod, and created a cool feel. So giving myself the freedom to have industrial arts on a wall-hung sculpture, and has been a lot of fun to play with. This piece that we're coming up on is called West. It has the large yellow moon in it. And this is a single mold sculpture with only the reaction, no other mixed media. It's one of my favorite pieces in the collection. And that piece also was mostly toned during the reaction. I added a couple layers of some accent gold on top, and then painted the moon on it. But other than that, the reaction that you see is what happened during the creative process. And that was a really fun piece to see come out. Here I am at the desk where I greet all of our guests, casually sitting on my toolbox. And that's our studio walk.
So we have one of your students joining us now.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, great. I'm going to spin my computer for a second so our audience can see this piece of artwork. This is from one of my students in our Shell program. So it's a painting with a sculpture painted on top of her canvas. And she's going to sign in and share a little bit about the completion of this project. I can't see you, but welcome, Jasmine. Sarah tells me you're here.
She is muted and she has her camera off.
Oh,
there she is.
Hi.
Hi, Jasmine.
Hi. Sorry, I'm a student at West, and I internship at Lodger, and that's why I made this. He told us that we had to feel the shell and try to recreate it, and like what is it called? and like incorporate something to do with like the beach, because that's where he found the seashells. So I tried to make mine look like a seashell, and the amount of times that has fell off the canvas, I'm surprised that it stayed. But like, yeah. So I painted the background to look like a sunset. It was really messy, and then I put like some little birds.
Jasmine, it's gorgeous, first of all, and I want to give you a lot of credit. You're one of the first students to actually complete every phase of it all the way through. We struggled a little bit during the pandemic, and what you did with your piece of artwork is very special. All of the color toning and blending that you put in, you're very talented, and your sculpture is just completely gorgeous. I'm in love with this, and I would love to get it when we connect. If you're up for it, we're going to display it in the gallery space here, so that other people can see it and appreciate it. And I'll help you glue that shell on when I see you. We have a way of fixing that. So let's connect when you come through. And I'll tell you a little bit about the Shell program. We were able to do this during COVID. We can set up 9 students in the conference room, socially safe. And we talked through the seashell that was discovered on a beach trip where I lost my wedding ring in the ocean. And I figured the ocean took something very special from me, so I would take something from it to give back to my students that would share just as much joy as my ring and memories have brought me. So the shell, as we analyze it and go through the class, everybody's first reaction to a seashell, even if it has chips in it, is that it's beautiful and it's colorful, and we hunt up and down the beaches for them, looking for them. And at the end of the class, I talked to the students that in reality, that shell has been through so much. It used to have life inside of it. It's a scallop shell, once had a partner, right? And was separated from its partner and crashed on the shore alone sometimes. And then it gets crashed and washed up onto the beach, and here comes one of us humans to pick it up and take it home for our collection. And we try and focus on, even though the shell's been through a lot, been through hell, it can still be made beautiful again. And this little tiny seashell walks us through a class. And I saw a question pop up. I can just address it, Cody. The ages are all ages in our class. At one of our last exhibits, we talked about having an adult version of the class, but the lesson in the Shell program is applicable to anybody who's willing to believe it, and that no matter what we've been through or what we're going through, that we can still come out of it on top and be made new again, and have self-beauty and self-worth. And then as well as during that process, create a piece of visual art that represents that. And, it's a sneaky little seashell. You don't realize how deep that little tiny seashell is, but it's a very powerful tool that we can use in our classes. And now that COVID is kind of picking up or not picking up, going down, we're going to be opening those classes back up again with our students. And so Jasmine, thank you so much for signing in today. You did a great job at creating art and public speaking. And I'm very, very proud of you, Jasmine. Thank you for signing, and it really means a lot to me. You're one of my favorite students that I've had, and your artwork's just incredible. You've got a long career ahead of you, and if you know that art is a voice that you can use without saying something, then that's going to carry with you for the rest of your life. Very well done, Jasmine.
Thank you.
I see another question pop up, and these classes were currently held outdoors during COVID in the Grit Gallery here in our conference room. And with Jasmine's case, I package up all the materials in a drop cloth and canvases, paints, anything that they need, and I replenish them for them. And they were sent to the students' houses, so they were able to work on them at home on their own time. And so that was a way that we can do that. And during that time, people from the community got involved and helped out in donating materials and food and things of that nature. And so it's one of my favorite aspects of art since I've been creating. It's been one of the greatest givebacks that we can do. And people raising awareness and raising funds for others in need and using art as a tool to do that is just right up our alley. And we're just getting started with that. And now that we can have a runway in front of us, I look forward to more of these classes. I'm just going to throw out there, in case people have to come and go, my email is david@davidlionheart.art. If for some reason you don't get to have a question answered before you have to leave, you can email myself or anybody at the Orange County Arts Council, and I reply very quickly. I can get back to you with any information that doesn't cover during this interview.
David, I think
Uh,
you're inspiring. It sounds like a lot of budding artists in your area. Do you want to tell us and our viewers a little bit how you got started yourself?
sure. I think I'm still a budding artist. Uh, I work a lot in the community space, in the veteran space in particular, and I'm in charge of the suicide prevention program, and we use fitness and peer-to-peer support to help military members and their families transition into kind of regular life, whatever that is, and that's constantly changing, and into civilian life for them primarily. And that got very heavy for me during that time. And we lose people. You know, one day we're playing football with them, and the next day they're gone. And I'm not trained for that, as I understand now. But I'm good at it, and I'm a receptor for some of that. But I was receiving a lot and helping, but not helping myself. And I learned the value of putting energy back in when so much energy was coming out. And art has been a tool for that to help me. So I started creating about a year and a half ago. And it was to create a small piece of art to go on a blank wall once we installed a piece of art in our house. And my wife said, "You have to paint something that's going to go there now, but we just bought this piece, so you have to do it." So she sent me off to Michael's, and I got my first canvas, couple canvases, and turned off my phone. And for a weekend, I just sat in the driveway painting, and I had so much fun. And sorry, and something happened, and it didn't stop happening. So I've created about 160 something pieces of art, and thank you. And since that day, since July 14th, so this will be our 2-year anniversary in July for that I'll call my studio, but that I've been creating artwork, intentionally. And if I didn't create those pieces of artwork, where would all of this information be still in my head? And one of my friends and collectors is here. She was awake at 3 in the morning when I was. I was up last night. I painted from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. and it's hard to understand that sometimes of why that's happening. But instead of laying there in bed suffering, I just got up and walked into my studio and painted and listened to some really good Radiohead. And I went back to bed at 4 o'clock and I slept really well and peacefully. And so having access to that tool and understanding its power has changed my life. And I'm hoping that I can use it to help others benefit as well.
Great. That's amazing that you give yourself that freedom and time that if you have that feeling at 2 a.m. to just go ahead and do it.
I don't have much going on at that time, so it was, I didn't have to clear the schedule. But yes, making time is very important for me, whether it's early in the morning. I've been really pushing if I don't have obligations during the day to see what it's like to paint during the day, like in my studio, and let that be what I'm doing for work. And my desire is to, create enough artwork that I can, work in the community and be a living artist of sorts, as I'm sure every artist's dream, but we all realize how important health and perspective are in life. And wherever I go and whatever I'm doing, I know art will be right there with me. So whether I'm, using it as a living or using it to heal, as long as I have it, then I will be a very happy person.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. So how do you find your inspiration? Do you have a specific concept in mind? Is it more cathartic? Talk about that a little, your inspiration and process.
I have a very busy mind. So whenever I enter my studio, I'm constantly seeing treasure. And before I started, my process of personal healing, I wasn't paying attention to my surroundings. I was really harboring what was inside and what was going on. And when I flicked that switch, I visited the Grand Canyon and I was hiking through the Grand Canyon and I could not keep my hands off of the earth around me. I was covered in dust and clay and prickers and I was just touching everything and woke up and watched every sunrise and watched every sunset. And there's so much beauty in front of us. Once we are ready to receive it, it can play a role in our lives, a very positive role in our lives. And I wasn't ready to receive it in that way. I was on a different mission. And now I look at flowers. I just started painting flowers, and I've got a bunch of beautiful, really cool flowers that are a lot of fun to work with. And then I do crazy abstract industrial sculptures that are out of left field. And You know, when you walk into the gallery now, it could look like there's 2 or 3 different artists exhibiting in here. So I don't restrict myself to what I do when I get into the studio, and the inspiration has become daily. And learning that there's no such thing. First thing I teach my students is you are already an artist, and there's no such thing as messing up a painting. And that's, if you can hold on to those couple things, then you know, just buckle up and get in for the ride. So I find a lot of inspiration in the nature around me, conversations with people. I've found myself kind of transferring people's stories of joy or pain into a canvas and into a painting, and where it goes is where it's there. We have a piece in Chelsea right now exhibiting called Heart of Gold, and it's a 2-piece set that focuses on support from someone in your life, a loved one, when you're going through something, how important that is, and so the painting speaks on that issue. So sometimes my paintings are intentionally created with an emotion or feeling behind them or a point, and sometimes they just happen, and that's okay if they just happen too, because I feel blessed to have the opportunity to create and to get that out, whatever that is in my head and whatever time of day it is. I love color. I don't know anything about it. I wasn't trained in it, but I'm learning and I'm looking, and I just do what feels good to me, and so far that hasn't failed me.
I'm finding this very refreshing. A lot of artists, I think, struggle with notions that they may have or have adopted from training of things that are right or wrong, or you have an idea in your mind that you want to execute and you don't leave a lot of room for play and surprise. But it seems like you're very comfortable with that.
Yeah, it's how it all happens, really. And I'll set out to intentionally go after a project sometimes, and whether it comes together or doesn't, you know, that's okay too. But it's part of a learning curve and a learning process, and being willing to fail, you know, at what the first couple attempts are going to look like. And I think it's just like I think you said it very, very well, Cody, in that people shouldn't feel there's a wall in between them and expressing themselves, whether it's through poetry. We have a very accomplished poet and friend of mine here, and there's different art mediums and different expressions, and even if it's sitting silently and meditating is an art form of itself. And I think people need to find whatever that is for themselves, especially now with life beginning anew. It's a great time to pick a new hobby or something that's positive for yourself and go after it. And I have a lot of friends who started creating and started painting now since I have. A friend in Sacramento started creating, and he's showing in a gallery now and out there, which is pretty cool. So anywhere we can share this journey and getting people out there, and that's applicable to anything in life, whether it's boating or hiking or running, and you know, grab someone who needs help. And this has been a big giving week, and I want to thank everybody who gave to the Orange County Arts Council during the big give yesterday, because it's a great organization. I appreciate that. Something else to think about is giving yourself and giving your time. When you go out and volunteer in the community and see something and try something new, you already have the tools to make a difference in that space with the people around you. If you have, you know, we all have 2 ears and a smile, and that's all we need to go out and make a difference. So don't feel like you're not qualified or not ready or not able to go help or create or sing or laugh or love, and just go do it. There's really nothing stopping you but ourselves.
So for those of us who are not familiar with a lot of material and use, can you talk more about the caustic material and process and the chemistry that goes into that?
I can share a little bit. I can't give away all the secrets, of course, Cody. You know,
whatever you can.
Yeah. Yes. So the reaction that I create on the surface is a very thick, heavy grade, almost like a styrofoam of sorts. And it's about 2 inches thick when it starts off, and sometimes the reaction can occur and take it all the way through the piece. And also I'll modify the pieces accordingly to how I want the finished product to be viewed and to look. So a lot of the prep work happens prior to the reaction being set onto it, where I can dictate what's left behind on the canvas. And then once that's complete, the material is strong enough that I can adhere heavy metals into it. The aluminum frame becomes part of the painting when I fix the canvas to it, and it offers another round of strength to the industrial substrate, as well as some of the fixtures that are put into the paintings. So they're very lightweight, believe it or not, depending on how much metal and other material is being added and put into them. And the reaction, like I said, has to happen outdoors. It takes about 24 hours for the reaction to fully happen. I get rained on, sunned on. It just happens. Whatever's happening is going to happen. And they're really cool because while I say I have some sort of control over it, you really don't. And there's something fun and spontaneous about it's like almost trying to catch a king cobra or something like that. And you kind of just dance with it. And by the end of it, as long as you're both okay, you're left with a cool piece of art. And then I can go in and intentionally color tone and decorate with any mixed media that I have afterward to see what the reaction has done and where it leaves room for me to come in and modify. I like this is different than some of my traditional acrylics and oils on canvas, which are really great. I can do that year round, and I'm sure a lot of the audience is familiar with those processes and these sort of things. And so that's about all I can tell you about it without giving away grandma's sauce recipe.
Well, thank you for that. I think that was very informative. Let's see, looking at my questions, I want to ask about do you have any peer inspiration or any artist that you admire or love to view, anyone in museums?
Yeah, my favorite artist before I started this process is Maria Lago. She's an artist. She has a studio in Beacon. And when my child was born, he was like 3 months old. I wheeled him in there, and that was his first art gallery. I love going in and seeing her new stuff. Her textures really resonated with me, and her compositions, and they still do. She's still one of my favorite artists. And so I saw what she was doing. That was the piece of art that my wife bought for me that went up on the wall. And that piece of art was called The Eighth Day. And the subject in the piece was laying down holding this paintbrush and had created something beautiful in 7 days, and on this 8th day laid down and wondered if it should get back up again, if it should create again, if it should stop, what the contemplation was. And while I didn't want to be that subject on the canvas, I really resonated with that at that point in my life of what I wanted to do, and I chose to get back up and continue to create. And so this beautiful sculpture and texture and all this wonderful stuff sparked something in me to get me creating and starting to seek out by my own trial and error what some of these compositions were going to look like when I was creating them. And about a year after I was creating, I went into her studio and brought a magazine with me where I mentioned her in an article. And I said, "Do you have a couple minutes?" And I told her what I'd been doing over a year. And she was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe what you've been doing. Like, this is crazy." And she's come to the gallery since then, and we talked, we were friends before that, but I feel in a previous life she was a mentor or a sister or something like that, and so she really put the tool in my hands just by creating herself, and it pushed me into an educational space where I was constantly pushing my boundaries to learn what she was doing, how she was doing it without asking her, and by my own trial and error. And then when we came together, we had the next level talk, and she was able to walk me through. She's like, "Okay, now try this and look at this," and it was like playing basketball with Michael Jordan, if you're a basketball fan. It was really cool, and humbling experience that she would take that time to share with me, and it really propelled my career as an artist and as an artist in the community. What she did for me is what I want to do for others. And before I even put my brush to a canvas, she had already done that, and it inspired me to fall in love with art in a way I hadn't before.
Well, it sounds like you're already doing that, passing that along with all of your side projects, which I want to get to in just a minute. But first, I think all of us realize that you are incredibly accomplished for someone who has been doing this for a year and a half. Do you have any advice that you could give the rest of us? How do you find opportunities? What do you feel like is a strong force in your practice that has helped to propel you?
To create every day. Do not stop creating. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about anything that's surrounding it. Like, just keep listening to yourself. And if you're checking in with yourself and constantly creating, I mean, I created every day, whether I had to wake up at 3 a.m. or stay up till 3 a.m. And that's not easy to do. I have a very supportive family that allows me that space to do that. And that's been a very, very positive influence on me. My friends that surround me and constantly encouraging me to keep on creating and keep on working, like that positive. I don't like to take thank yous from anybody, and I don't like attention or anything like that. And my friends are so generous with me and constantly praising and applauding the work and the effort that's going into it. And I appreciate that because I don't like to take a compliment ever. I would just say keep on creating, and someone's going to see you. There's no mistake for passion. You know, you can always pull a fake out of a crowd, and when someone's not there for the right reasons, and everyone has their own reasons. But stay true to yourself, and if you're helping yourself and helping your family and the people around you, and you're able to constantly create, someone's going to take notice to that. And what they're going to notice is that you're happy. And I love happy artists. I'm a sad dude sometimes too, and I have my bad days. But when I see somebody who has created something, even if it's a dark painting, I'm so proud of them for doing it because it's not easy to get those emotions out sometimes. So even if it's tough to create, continue pushing through, and someone will notice you. And it's not about the galleries and all these other things like that. I'm very fortunate the people at Grit, Eric and Dave, welcomed me in here. It's kind of like giving your crazy friend the keys to your car to drive around for a little while. And so far, I think that they're happy with how everything's turning out. But we're just looking to benefit the community, bring art back to Newburgh in a way that can be modified and have a fresh breath to it. And we're working constantly to improve our processes, and we're going to be doing more group shows and bringing more artists into that space. And we're exhibiting an artist who's never exhibited before, starting in July. So that's a huge step, like giving somebody a shot who hasn't done it before and who's very good. And I can see hard work a mile away. And this young man is all about it. And even the students that we've had in here that are pushing to create, and when someone won't even pick up the paintbrush or the pencil, and by the end of the class, they're showing me their Seashell. And that's it. That's like the top notch, thank you that we could ever get. And so my advice would be to find things that make you happy while you're creating, be inspired, look around, keep your eyes open. And if you see something beautiful, admire it. And if you want to make it your own, create it, and just keep pushing that path. And you can always come talk to me. I'm always available. If there's any artists out there who have any questions, I'm just a regular dude, but I'll answer any knowledge I have. I can pass it along, absolutely. And we have a very knowledgeable staff, from the framing aspect to arts and to music. And we're working on a poetry director, who we're constantly, we're looking to expand our borders and connect with other galleries and whatnot. And so I would also recommend a new artist to join a space like the Orange County Arts Council, which I know a lot of these people on today are members, but one of our initiatives is going to be getting memberships for our students and the people exhibiting at Great Gallery. And this way we can connect them with a community of artists, because I am not definitely the wealth of knowledge in the world of art, but with a space like the Orange County Arts Council and other great art groups that are out there, just talk to each other, and you'll learn a lot about friendship, and you'll learn a lot about art all at the same time.
Thank you, David. So you have this amazing open heart and sharing attitude. Talk to us a little bit about the beautiful side projects that you've created.
Well, one of them is the Play for Your Freedom, and we work in hospital spaces trying to get people together, getting out of their bedrooms, avoiding isolation, and just coming out and being with one another. And isolation doesn't do anybody any good. And so the main part of that project is getting people up and moving, and surrounding themselves with people who care. And so we use fitness and peer-to-peer support to do that for the veterans and their families. And we're in 15 different hospitals in 8 different states. We're all volunteers, so everybody who comes out wants to be there and has a big heart and a good way to give. And we say a lot happens over a bottle of water during that time. So some people might not have spoken to another human in months. And with enough attempts at asking them if they want a drink of water, eventually they'll open up and give in. And so that project doesn't, like I said, we already have the tools for that. Your ears and your smile, and and we just try and bring a little bit of joy to people who need a little bit more time to heal. And we always make sure that they know that everybody has a place and a purpose in that room. When we play sports, there's people in motorized chairs out there playing football with us, and we have retired NFL players and things of that nature. So, when you're having fun and getting out there, everyone's equal when you come together in that space of love like that. And that's been a big deal for us. It's about 8 years old now, and we've helped over 5,000 veterans and their families. And we're starting back up again in August. And that website is playforyourfreedom.org if you would like to check it out. We also filmed a documentary that's going to be released this Veterans Day on iTunes and Amazon. It got picked up by the largest national distributor in the country of independent film. And we're very excited and honored to be having that come out. It's called PTSD, The Walking Wounded. And that trailer is on our homepage at playforyourfreedom.org. So a lot of resources are located there where you can see some of these projects. And again, it started off as a small vision with the people in my community here who got behind us, and we wanted to raise awareness for invisible wounds. And we had no idea what that would look like at the end of the day and how big of a project it would turn into. But it doesn't matter. You start off genuine and from your heart, and start giving people the opportunity to become friends with you and know that it's okay to hurt and it's okay to heal. And it's turned into something very big and involves a lot of very dedicated people, volunteers in the community, and a lot of good breaks that we caught along the way with catching the right people at the right event to try and change and save a life.
Excellent, thank you. Now, back to your studio practice real quick. What is the most important tool for you? The thing you can't live without, can't create without?
Music.
In your studio practice.
Music, absolutely. It's
right
like
in your head.
I get to listen to whatever I want. I have my old CDs and tapes down there, and when I walk in, the first thing I do is turn the music on. And like 2 a.m. this morning, first thing I did, I was wishing for a cup of coffee, but that would have been backwards at 4 o'clock when I wanted to go back to bed. But having some music that I resonate with dictates a lot of the flow in my pieces and where I go with it and how the flowers bloom and how they perk and what's moving with and among them and things of that nature. And so I have so many things in my stash of treasure. It would be impossible to pick a tool. I do have a favorite brush that I forgot out one night and it got paint dried up on it, so I don't have that anymore. I'm really sad. But music, hands down, and feeling good. Like if I go down there and feel like the energy is good with my family, if I've made dinner for my wife and son and hugs and kisses and knowing everyone's okay, then I can go down there with a clear mind. Like not forget work and all that stuff. Like, but having my core family and friends, knowing that I did everything I could that day to give myself. That's my time to give back to myself. So I deserve it. And I had a friend who I was talking to recently asking if I was going to ever take credit for anything. And I said, yeah, my beautiful paintings, because that's me. That's the one thing I can brag about and feel good about. And it's changed my life in such an incredible way. So, the music is so important to me when I get down there in the studio and creating. And then anything else that's not nailed down and in my way could end up in a painting or could end up as a tool to make the painting.
Yeah, talk to us about where you find the different elements, the found elements of your mixed media.
Friends who know I collect treasure bring me bones and, wood and all metals. And the last painting that's in New York City is composed of 12 different caliber bullet shells that create this big, beautiful sculpture in it. So really, whatever I've got on hand, in my carpentry remodels and renovations, if I see something of value that I think I can use in a painting, I slowly take that apart and bring it back home. And my studio, which I would have hosted there, but it's a very strange and dungeony, there's stuff everywhere kind of place. And I will host a studio tour there for my collectors this coming spring, because it's part outdoor, part indoor. But it was it's a space that's kind of just evolved over time as I have needs. I make very large artwork, so I'm kind of building an airplane in my basement some nights, and I just have to figure out how to get it out of there. So I find the stuff everywhere, and I have good friends that are gardeners and in the community that can get me things and bring stuff to me. And like I said, everything has value and purpose.
For those of us who are not in person at Grit, how long will the show be up, and where else can we see your work?
So this show is going to be up until June 27th, which is my birthday. Happy birthday, me! And thank you. And so we're gonna be clearing the walls on the 28th for the next artist coming in, who will be up from July through September, the beginning of September. So Grit, and we're working really hard to be open on the weekends, but we always do private appointments for people, so you can reach out and email me or Dave or Eric, and we'll do a private walkthrough with anybody. Excuse me. I have a show that's in Chelsea right now. I'm the featured artist at Agora Gallery. And the work I was describing earlier, Heart of Gold, is on display there until May 25th. But they're considering extending the show, which would be so rad. And I have work in Poughkeepsie right now at the Revel. We outfitted all of their main catering areas with fresh artwork, local artwork, which is great. We just ended a show at Gallery 40, but that's also a great gallery to go out and visit. We showed well there. And I got to meet some of my new friends and collectors there as well. And I don't know, I think that's it. And then my house is full of art. It looks like that strange Pablo Picasso picture where where the art is like leaning on everything. Like you can't open up a kitchen cabinet and like a piece of art falls out. You know, there's just art everywhere. And again, I have a very supportive family who is okay with that and kind of just steps around it and moves around it. And but I like surrounding myself with it, and that's what's nice about being at Grit. Here with the layout, there's a lot of different areas that you can kind of get lost in and appreciate the artwork, and a lot of room to spread out as we still are existing in a socially safe setting where people can still enjoy a lot of artwork. And there's a lot of also great galleries around here in the city of Newburgh that are open on the weekends that can be visited as part of an art tour as well.
It really is a beautiful space to show. The walls are big, the lighting is clear, and your work looks great there.
Thank you.
So what does success look like to you if you had to define success?
Getting an interview on Orange County Arts Council. That was a big on the bucket list. So
you've made it, yeah.
Hey, you know, my dad's really sick right now. Success was on Tuesday when he chose to fight to live. This is just stuff, you know. Success is working with your loved ones, seeing them healthy and happy, and you yourself doing that. So it's been an incredible week. Like I said, he wasn't doing so good. I'm not going to get into the details, and I'm sorry for everybody here. But he chose to fight and live, and he's doing that. And I saw him today before I came here, and I'm just so proud of him. So that's success. Sorry.
No need to apologize.
Yeah. And making a bunch of beautiful paintings, of course, is wonderful. And we've had great sales. I have a bunch of great collectors, and working with the children, having Jasmine come on here and show her artwork. I'm a lucky guy.
You're making a difference for a lot of people, it seems.
Just trying one day at a time.
I think that's success in my book.
I'll take that from you, Cody. Thank you.
So, Lionheart, is that your given name?
It is not. It's a very good question. You like to do your research, Cody, I see. No, when I was younger, my God-given name is Dave Matthews, which is fun. It's laughable. It was awesome in college because he was amazing and way better at guitar than I am and is and probably ever will be. But when I was younger, I ran track and field, and a good friend of mine, Raul, he told me I ran with the heart of a lion, and he called me Lionheart. And so when I was getting married, I asked my wife if she would be okay with changing our family name and kind of starting over with our family name. And I told her it was going to be Lionheart, and she said, I think you're crazy, but I still think I got to marry you anyway. And so my son is the firstborn Lionheart in our family. And it kind of stuck, and it's, you know, from high school, and the gentleman who, you know, gave me that name is so happy, of course, to have done that. But you know what? You can't be afraid to be yourself and to find things that make you happy and make things feel right in your life. And as long as they're not hurting anybody else and they're surrounded with love, then you should go for it. And in New York State, for a couple $100, you can change your name. Who cares?
We have a question from an audience member in regards to this topic. Do you think that taking a new name allows you to redefine yourself? From Jonathan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had to. I was moved to and wanted and needed to start over. Like when you shave your head or something, like there's these things that we do in our lives, or put a bracelet on that's a reminder of I need to be a better person, or I need to think of this person or something. And changing that mindset is very important. It's not easy. I work with a lot of people who spend their whole lives trying to change that mindset from what's going to happen to me next to what can I do next, and what can I get done today, and how can I make today the best day possible. And sometimes I'm nauseatingly positive, and sometimes I'm in a really bad spot. And I go back to what that core is, and who am I, and how am I going to represent myself and my family and my community during the day and with each action. And that helps. A lot of people count on me, and I want to be there for them. And sometimes I'm having a really crappy day, and I need those people who surround me and raise my spirits and lift me up. And so David Lionheart wasn't my name. It was the name I was going to use to help others around me and help myself at the same time. So I've got big shoes to fill, and rent's due every day.
Great, thank you. For all of our virtual audience members, I'm going to open up this time for questions from the chat. So if you have any, please go ahead and type them up.
And anybody in person, I was going to offer, after the Zoom is over, I can answer any questions for anybody who's present here, just to not cloud it with the digital team.
Thank you. Here's one from Gloria. Did you have another creative outlet before you painted, and did you ever study art?
I didn't study art. When I was in college, I was an athlete, and I took art because I can go there hungover sometimes, and that was like a good way of doing it. And I heard there was like nude modeling and stuff like that, and I was like, oh, sweet. So it's very different from what I thought when I got there. And as a kid, my grandparents and aunts and everybody were showering me with pencils and sketch pads and things of that nature, but I never looked at it the way that I do now. And I'm a carpenter still, and the saying for my company was creating beauty from true understanding. And so I looked at my carpentry and my craft as a form of art, and having an artistic mindset for that helped me work with my clients who were artists and had a certain vision that they wanted to see through. Whatever that was. So that's been a big part of my art, is knowing, and Eric Jarman and I were talking about it before we got started today, having that as a tool in my bag already when I'm going into the art process, framing, creating, building, utilizing some of these tools. So that creative part of me from my past has been a really major contributor to a lot of my building in my art career. And so I would say that, and I like to softly play guitar. I'm not very good. My stepdad taught me how to play guitar, and so I like to do that. So look for the Grit music series coming soon from Gritworks. It won't be me, but it will be some other people. So yeah, and I just love looking at art and appreciating art now. And so I never really had any formal training. I never went to art school or studied at school, but it's important for people to know that they can still come out and create and become artists. And I was speaking to a young lady who told me she felt she didn't go to a good enough art school. And I was like, whoa, back up the bus here for a second. Like, yeah, stop. Like, get off your computer and your phone and go pick up whatever art it is you do and go do it. Just don't have that stigma. But there's always room to learn, and I'm being pushed to study some more things and get. I have a bigger desire to study art now that I've been creating art than for me to go study art to become an artist. And I think I'm ready to start learning, and I'm always listening and really interested in other people that are perfecting their craft and and it's just great to see other people share their passions, and if you can learn from it, I'm very interested in that space. So I see myself studying more now as an artist than if it would have been prior.
Thank you. Jasmine wants to know, will you ever paint a seashell?
You mean do my own class? You know what, Jasmine? For you, I'm going to paint a seashell. The next thing I create is going to have your name on it, okay? And I'm going to hang it in the gallery next to your seashell. So as long as you're okay with that, let's make that a deal.
I like that deal.
I want to see a little thumbs up emoji or something here just to double check.
She's
Cool.
got it. All right, David asks, as a woodworker, are you ever tempted to make art with wood a la Martin Perrier rather than chemicals?
I don't know. I kind of just focus on the work that I'm doing now, but I'm not opposed to it if it falls into my space. I'm always willing to learn and look and listen. Like I said, I took a blacksmithing class and I made my own hammer, which was really cool. So learning that form of art was just truly incredible to see what a blacksmith goes through to forge these tools and steel and stuff. So I'm a looker and a listener. Like I'm always interested in that. I focus on the things I've been forging. I still feel like I haven't even scratched the surface on what I can do in some of these techniques. And I think at one point in time in my life, I'll start shifting gears and moving into some new techniques. And I think the next thing I want to study is sculpture, standing sculpture in clay and working with my hands. A friend recently told me I have a talent that's not understood because I can feel things in my hands from being a woodworker with grain and whatnot. And I'd like to pursue, I think that is next on my list, to sculpt. And maybe that might be this winter's project, because I'll be in the outdoor studio doing wild stuff like that's hanging up here in Grit.
That's cool. I look forward to seeing those.
Anytime.
How do you handle criticism?
Same way you handle praise. Everyone's got an opinion and has something to say, and it's important to take both. And that's something I tell my students, is that someone's going to say your art looks like crap, and that's when you know to turn the volume down on them and just understand it. But criticism also is really important, because I had a friend come over when I first started creating, and Dave will laugh at this story, but he's like, your art looks like SHIT. He's like, look at this over here, and look at this over here, and look at this over here. And you know what? I was out in my driveway at 3 a.m. I took them all off my wall and I painted over all of them and started over. And I listened to everything that person was saying, because they had a lot of knowledge as well. And they didn't mean that in a harsh way to me. They said, if you want to be serious about what you're doing, here's what you can do differently. And it taught me what being intentional was with my artwork, and not to let everything be accidental. Sometimes things, can happen while you're creating, but what the power of intention is, and having a focus of intention when I go in the studio. And although we laugh at that story, it probably put me light years ahead of the people like me. Like, so it's rare someone will walk up and say, your piece of art looks like crap, man. Like, this isn't great. And he put me light years ahead of the curve just because I needed to hear what he had to say, and I was willing to listen to it. So filter the criticism, appreciate the love. Don't deny yourself the love. Like, if someone's telling you they love your artwork, then just smile and like relish in that, because that's a really special feeling.
Excuse me. Do you think there can be art without intention?
Of course. Yeah, spontaneous art is happening all the time. That's my practice, is coming through. And sometimes I change a canvas over completely. The one I brought in here today that's in our small works room, the large flower piece, that was something completely different. I was toiling over for like 2 weeks. And then, in a quick instant, I turned it into something else, and it was meant to be what it is. And so spontaneous is okay. And like I said earlier, there's no such thing as ruining a piece of art. You can't mess it up. It's impossible to mess up the art. Sometimes you go too far, and that's just a lesson you got to learn for next time. And learning restraint. But absolutely, there's innocent art that can occur, and there's a pile of cardboard out there that can look cool if I look at it the right way. But if you have love in your heart and things that you're receiving, you're going to look at everything as an opportunity to be a positive thing.
Thank you. Thank you, David. It looks like that's all the time we have for today, but thank you so much for joining us. I want everyone to unmute themselves and give David and Jasmine and grit. A round of applause.